Welcome back to the Crucial Convo podcast. We are talking about some serious stuff today. We're talking about human trafficking. Of course, I have my lovely wife here.
Hi, everyone. I hope everybody is doing well on this day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's definitely talk about it. Let's get right into the story. We talked about this because she actually brought it up to my attention that a story of human trafficking, a sex human trafficking ring, actually was in our backyard in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. But let me play this story and we can talk about it.
Alleged human trafficking ring busted in the Garden State. 7 people indicted in 2 separate human trafficking enterprises across North and South Jersey.
Today, New Jersey Attorney General Matthew Platkin, with state police and other investigators, announced the indictments of 42-year-old Uziel Luna and his alleged co-conspirators, 40-year-old Jose Perez Lopez, 35-year-old Rosendo Vasquez Hernandez, and 28-year-old Yersan Fuentes Marquez.
Women were recruited on the false pretense that they would be working as dancers, but instead they were taken to a Bridgeton home where they were offered for commercial sex.
Platkin says they found over a 2-year investigation, new women were picked up on a weekly basis from Queens, New York, and Patterson, New Jersey.
And they were taken down to Bridgeton, where they were allegedly forced to perform sex acts on hundreds of men during the week. And while at the house, the victims also allegedly witnessed violent activity.
Now, a lot of times, I'm not saying all the time, but sometimes stripping those opportunities are gateways into porn. And a lot of times they're gateways into sex trafficking. We hear about sex trafficking all the time, but I think people don't really realize in how big that underground network is of sex traffickers. So what they're doing, it sounds like in this Bridgeton case in PA, they basically are recruiting these girls to say, hey, you're going to come down here. You could be a dancer, maybe at a club or maybe a group of clubs that we own. And then
I'm wondering how old the girls are. Are they like teenagers, or are they like teenagers, like far as like 13, 14, 15,
No,
or are they older? Okay, not in this case.
From what I understand, these girls are probably, they could be underage, but probably close to 18 or older.
18.
But I think that because those type of situations, if they're going to be dancers, I don't think they typically use that ruse with a minor that's 13 or 14.
Yeah, okay.
That wouldn't really make sense for them.
Okay, right.
I think they use the girls who are probably in their early 20s or maybe late teens. You can come be a dancer or a model or whatever, and then once they get these people down there, they say, all right, well, you're gonna stay here. You can't leave. We'll kill your family, and
or they get beat,
they get beaten.
They get drugged. I mean, it's like the freedom of choice is no longer available.
Right. And then now you got to turn tricks, and that's what ends up happening. And a lot of times they keep them drugged. But sex trafficking is big. So I want to play. Let me play this other video.
Americans care a lot about money. We talk about jobs and taxes and paychecks, but here's what we don't talk about. Right here in the United States, there is a thriving underground economy based on selling children for sex. If sex sells, then business is good. Look at all the money. It was almost $1 billion in this study.
Look at the numbers, y'all. So Atlanta, 290 million. Miami, 235 million.
Oh my gosh.
That's crazy. That's an enormous amount of money in that trade.
And this is just sex trafficking.
This is just sex trafficking from what we see. Here we are up in Jersey, about right here. They say that New Jersey is like a really huge hub now.
Yeah, that's the hub.
We're close to
a major city, New York,
and
then PA, yep,
and DC, Maryland area as well.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
this is how sex traffickers do business. It's about supply and demand. First, they need someone to sell. Traffickers target children in their own homes. They find them by combing through social media profiles looking to spark a conversation. The trafficker targets preteens and teens by finding an end, something to bond over and earn their trust. It could be the promise of a modeling career. Traffickers use internet sites to connect with buyers. So who are these buyers? Court records show they've been teachers, pastors, cops, and judges. They could be the guy next door.
Some of these kids who are being sex trafficked. We're talking about kids that are 13, 12, that type of age. It's scary.
Well, and also with that age, it's like a lot of them have a lot more access to social media now. They have their own accounts. They have a phone, a smart device, and you can easily set up an Instagram page, easily set up a TikTok page. It's so easy, and you're putting your personal information out there. And you get people in your DMs sometimes, all the time,
Right, all the time.
And you come across the right one who's like, oh my gosh, you're beautiful. You should try coming to this, blah, 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 and there it goes. These are minors. And I think as a parent, I'm going to be combing through. I mean, our children aren't of that age yet. And I'm telling you, they probably won't have a smartphone for quite some time. But at the time, I'm telling you, the time,
they do,
or even if they do, they're going to have to, babe. I mean, that's just the way of the world. It's technology. And they're already talking about, Mom, I want my own YouTube page and and all of this stuff. So it's inevitable. It's going to come. But along with that comes a huge responsibility. And I think it's us as parents to dictate, number one, the amount of time that they spend on social media. Number two, you have to educate them and let them know. I know in our kids' school, both of them actually had to do some type of presentation about online safety, and they had to come up with their own presentation on how to stay safe online. Mm-hmm. And so we go through that because of the assignment. I think it would have probably come across our mind once they have access to those things, which they kind of, they're watching YouTube videos, but they're not actually, ain't got no DMs, they ain't got no messages coming in through to them specifically, or personally. It's usually through our accounts that they're watching that stuff. Right. But it's great that they're teaching that in the schools on things to look out for, things to, talk to your parents about. And they actually know. They know not to give out passwords. They know if they come across any kind of strange interaction, or if someone's asking you for some personal information, they know not to give out their personal information. And if you feel uncomfortable, just generally uncomfortable about something, they know to come to us. Yeah. So it's good to start those conversations early.
It's a tough conversation to have, but I think the problem is that, well, first of all, let's take a step back. A lot of these traffickers, they do focus on kids who don't have attention at home, or maybe possibly wanting to run away, or kids that are just detached a little bit from their parents. That's whatever true. The case is. So they focus on those first, because those are the kids that you can get to, possibly meet you somewhere. I mean, it all starts off with the conversation. That's why I like Chris Hansen's How to Catch a Predator. If you ever watched that the thing about that show, that was exactly what it was. It would be online chats, and this show goes back years.
It does. Yes.
And they would be doing the online chats, and the people who would be the adults who would be talking to these kids, they would use a decoy, of course, online. But the decoy was like, I'm 13 or I'm 12, and they would eventually go through the conversations and eventually meet up at this decoy house. And these people are showing up in their 40s, 50s, sometimes in their 60s, knowing that they're meeting a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
There are people who do that. Now they're just pedophiles, right?
Mm-hmm.
But those are situations where those pedophiles could be traffickers.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So
and this is how you get that turnover, because on the social media, your access is unlimited, honestly. Mm-hmm. And you're I would assume as the trafficker, you're able to somehow figure out who's underage, who's not underage. It doesn't even matter. I think they just want human bodies at the end of the day. Right. So the fact that they're able to, the turnover, the way that they were just saying how they were receiving new girls like every week. Mm-hmm. That just blows my mind. But it also speaks to the fact that I think it's because of social media and being able to send a mass message out to so many girls and say, hey, just meet us here if you want to be a dancer, if you want to blah, 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 make it sound like there's an opportunity there, because they probably do want better for themselves. If they're in a situation where maybe their home life isn't the best, and maybe they do want to try to make some money. Who knows what their life's circumstance or their family circumstance is.
How they end up that way. Yeah, no,
And
that's a great point. That's a great
how
point.
it ends up.
That's a great point because now we got to talk about the fact that, stripping culture has become, and I'm not knocking strippers, but the whole stripping and dancing has become so mainstream that there are a lot of young girls who are susceptible to the idea of I can just go and strip, and like you said, they may have a situation that they want to get out of or whatever it is. They're just young and they want to make money quickly. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty and somebody's showing me that attention. I can go dance and go make $2,000 a night and all this stuff. And you end up meeting people who are not going to set you up in some strip club. They are going to basically pimp you out. And that's what it turns into. So, and these are really sad things because they end up being trafficked and they end up being forced to have sex with hundreds of people a day sometimes. This isn't even like a prostitute turning tricks.
Right.
This is like beyond your...
And we're talking about children too. Children aren't really thinking about stripping on the stripping pole. We're talking about just, and trying to make money for the family. Although there are women out there and young underaged, I would say, underaged females out there who may think that is a viable option for them, is to go and strip, but in this other aspect of human trafficking, we're talking about children.
Yeah, and that's the thing that makes me that's the one that makes me sick to my stomach. Let me play the Essex County
where they're
before I
supposed
get
to have that exchange. Yeah,
the Essex County one was actually, and again, that's our hood. Essex County,
this is our hood.
The Essex County one was actually minors.
In the Essex County case, 2 suspects were indicted yesterday in connection with the human trafficking of 3 juvenile victims. A third suspect in that case was indicted in August. Newark residents Kyla Meekins, age 21, and her alleged co-conspirator Dante Barkley, age 28, were indicted after allegedly forcing 2 15-year-old victims and 1 13-year-old victim to perform sexual acts. In this case, the defendants allegedly arranged for the victims to engage in sex acts using smartphone apps and posting online ads including nude photos of the minors. The children victims, and I want to underscore that these were children, were then allegedly taken to short-term rentals and hotels to engage in sex acts. These alleged crimes are a stark reminder as to why we must be steadfast in our goal to end human trafficking in all of its forms.
That one right there, this Essex County one, let's just overview what he said. So you had a 28-year-old guy and a 21-year-old girl traffic 3 minors. So 2 15-year-old girls and a 13-year-old girl. They're trafficking kids that age. Now, why is that important to me, or should be to everybody? So you have a couple. So a lot of times you think of sex traffickers, you think about these crazy groups of spooky men grabbing women up in vans, and that does happen. But the other part of it is a lot of times you do have men and women teams. Those recruiting teams, or not even recruiting teams, but those traffickers or recruiting teams, sometimes they come in the form of a man and a woman, which makes women drop their guard a lot.
Oh yeah,
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So people have to understand that. And if you're talking about somebody who's typically, if you think of a sex trafficker, you don't think of like a 28-year-old guy and a 21-year-old girl.
Yeah,
it just don't come to mind.
Yeah, no, not at all. You're thinking men, older men, maybe.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, definitely not someone, because if you're 21, wait, how old was the girl?
The girl was 21.
Okay, so if you're 21, you can look younger than 21. You know what I mean?
Course.
That's horrible. Oh, that's horrible.
When you have kids that are 15 and 13, this case really just shocked me, because when you think about it, you wonder, like, what was the scenario? How did they get?
What was the circumstance to get these kids right
to the point? And like we said a few minutes ago, it might be situations where these kids are either runaways, or it could be a situation where these kids maybe don't have parents who are able to attend to them heavily like that. And those are crucial years between 13 and 17.
Yeah.
Or even more focused in between 13 and 15 to 16 are very crucial years for girls, I think. You know what I'm saying? And they are very impressionable years. 'Cause you're talking about kids who are coming out of childhood into teenage years. And that's where people first start to learn about themselves. They feel uncomfortable, the pimples and all these different things. And it's a very impressionable time for boys and girls. So this scenario
And
was
I also think they're not quite aware of the world yet. You know what I
No.
mean? In the way in which they should be aware of their surroundings and be careful of the interactions that you have with people. I think they are still young enough to still feel somewhat safe and just not be aware of the creeps that are coming out at night and the dangers around the corner. You know, they're not on high alert like that, and their level of awareness of those kinds of issues aren't really a part of their lives or their conversations. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would
There's a
say
level
so.
of innocence there
Yeah, that's a good point. There's definitely a
on
level
their
of innocence
behalf
there. And they don't at that
that's
point.
being taken advantage of for sure.
Well, yeah, because a lot of times if you have someone kind of preying on the idea of how you look or or opportunity, they don't really, there's an innocence there because they hear opportunity
Yeah.
and they don't think of, is this opportunity legit? Can I
Right.
be in danger?
Right.
And
Surely this person wouldn't be lying to me.
yeah, and as you get older, your spidey senses go up a little bit more.
Yeah.
An 18-year-old is still impressionable and vulnerable. But they might be like, let me see. So, for instance, if you're talking to a 13-year-old or
Yeah.
15-year-old and you say, hey, I have this opportunity for you to model or something like that, in
Yeah.
their mind, they don't even know the context of an opportunity
Yeah.
versus someone who might be 18, 19. They might you might have to give them a little bit better of a fake story for
Yeah.
them to come along with you. So, that's what's crazy. But when it really comes down to that age group, like you were saying, like we're saying, is that you have to make sure that you talk to them about what's out there, not just strangers, and tell them about sex trafficking, tell them about kids that get snatched up and end up in those situations, because it's a scary thing to talk to your kids or kids that you know about it. But it's really tragic when you talk about kids not only being kidnapped, but we're talking about just really destroyed at a young age.
Yes.
But there's one major sector where traffickers tend to hide in plain sight: hotels.
We know that sex trafficking takes place in hotels and hotel rooms. We also know that individuals working at hotels can be in situations of forced labor, and labor trafficking can take place at any point in a hotel supply chain.
But Nakia Vestal, a survivor of sex trafficking, says hotel staff are sometimes in on it.
Most traffickers on that scale, they always have a set location where they work. They always pick a hotel where they work because it's comfortable for them. They know the people at the front desk. The people at the front desk know what's going on. So, for them to say, "Oh, we don't know what's going on," if you see the same individual and these same girls come every day, you know what's going on.
Hotels really,
They play a part.
they play a big part.
Yeah, they
and
do.
and I could definitely see how that could happen, especially at the lower rung hotels. Like the people who work in there, they're not making a lot of money. They're not even caring half the
Yeah.
time. You know what I'm saying? So as long as you pay for the room, they're not paying attention to what's going on. But I do think they're part of the problem, but they're not the solution. Now, in relation to sex trafficking in general. So I wanted to talk about the grown woman factor because we talked about this. Now, when it comes to trafficking, people a lot of times don't think that it can happen to them. And I think there are many, many, many grown women that are missing across America. You know what I'm saying? Adult women that are missing who are being sex trafficked. Now, I'm not a big fan of, my wife and I've had conversations about this. I'm not a big fan about women going walking at night by themselves, jogging alone in the morning, especially if they're somewhere that it is not populated, but even places that are populated. I'm a big fan of women accompanying themselves. And I'll say this, and I want to, obviously let you say what you got to say. Now, I feel like if you're a grown, I don't know the experience. I'm not a woman. I'm a man. So as a grown woman, I understand the idea that, you know what, I'm a grown person. I want to be able to move around and do what I want to do when I want to do it. Right. But I think that with that being said, as a woman, you always have to be vigilant, especially if you're living in anywhere for that matter, but especially places where like a sex trafficking hub, we now know New Jersey is. So I think as a woman, you got to be vigilant and not to travel alone in certain situations, because traffickers and kidnappers in general, they look for opportunity. So I wanted you to tell that story. Well, you could chime in and tell that story that we talked about.
No, I'm definitely chime in, and I'm gonna tell that story. Let's see, where should I chime in? So, a personal experience. This is when we were living. I mean, the area was really nice. I don't know if we want to state like the location of the area.
West New York, New Jersey, right next to North Bergen,
right across from the river. I mean, it was like, a very, very nice location. Honestly, it was probably around 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, so the sun is out, people are getting up, they're going to work, so it's not an area that was rural or isolated in any kind of way. So when I was pregnant with our first child, I was doing my regular walk routine, before I was jogging, but now I'm walking at this point because I think I might be like 3 months pregnant or something. I'm showing a little bit of a belly. And I'm always cautious of vans. No matter what, I'm always cautious of vans. So I see this van, but I'm like, it's daylight. I ain't thinking nothing about it. Nobody's going to do anything in broad daylight. But I overheard as I was passing by the van, what about her?
Now, just for context, did the van stop, or was the van?
It was already parked.
It was parked.
It was already parked.
Passing a parked van.
I was passing a parked van. Yep. And the door was open.
Mm-hmm. And you heard what?
And I heard there were 2 men in the van. And as I was passing by, I overheard one said, "What about her?" And the other one responded, "Nah." And I see it because I was looking out of my peripheral as I was walking past. It was like, "Nah, she pregnant." He was like, said it under his breath, "She pregnant." But I saw him do that. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, what was that conversation about? I'm like, why are they talking about me? What were they gonna do to me? I mean, it never even crossed my mind about being human trafficked at any point. It really never crossed my mind that is probably what they were just looking for and what they were thinking about and what they were there for. You know what I mean? So I'm wondering, like, if I wasn't pregnant, how would they had approached me? Would they just grab me and just pull me into the van? Or, I mean, so my mind began to go down so many tunnels. It's ridiculous of how that situation could have turned out to be something else had I not been pregnant. But for the simple fact that they are out there in the broad daylight, even saying, "What about this person? What about that person? Should we?" I'm like, what was their next step? Like, if I wasn't pregnant, would it be to have a conversation? Hey, you looking for a modeling gig? Hey, you looking for the blah, blah, blah? Because, there are people because they have schools in New York and New Jersey for modeling. I mean, this is like the hub for fashion, for design, for modeling, for all of that. This is like the fashion capital of the world. We're living right next to it. So to approach someone and say that there's a possibility for things like that may be an opportunistic time for them to try and approach a pretty lady. But at the end of the day, you know why they're there. They're there to humanly traffic them. And I mean, it could just be as innocent as that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it really could.
But like you were saying, back to the women, grown women. I was one of those grown women who could have been a potential victim. But grown women need to be aware of the scams that are out there too. Believe it or not, there are ads on on Facebook that I've actually responded to just to kind of see where it leads me to. 40 plus women, looking for 40 plus women, 40-year-old women and over to model.
Okay, yeah.
Not to say that that's part of some kind of a scheme, but I can see how it could be. If you're responding, they're getting your information. They're asking for personal information, number one, so they know where you live. And then if you actually show up for one of these things, I mean, you're kind of
well, go ahead. I was going to say.
I was going to say that's an opportunity right there. So with that, if you are,
you need to go with somebody.
You need to go with somebody.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not to cut you off, but that's what I'm saying about these situations is that
don't go at it alone.
Don't create opportunity for people. My thing, look, even as a parent, I assume everybody's a kidnapper when it comes to my kids. I mean, it's just the way I am, and I think that you could call it being paranoid, but I think that it's beneficial for you to be vigilant because
any situation could be the situation.
And I don't give people opportunity. My thing is that regardless, don't give people opportunity. So I'm not a big fan of all these stories and I'm not blaming victims. I'm saying that all these stories where you have women who were killed jogging in the woods or jogging on desolate streets in the morning or in the dusk. I get it. You're an adult. You got to do what you got to do. But I think that you just can't give people opportunity. Or if you're going to do that, you needs to be ready with a knife or a gun or something.
Yes, I was going to say, because there are plenty of people out there who go out and exercise at the crack of dawn. They're trying to get their workout in before they even start the work day. But if you're going to do that and you're going to be alone and not with a group of people or maybe another person, you have your be strapped. I would just say it's better to err on the side of caution. And I say this to all of my patients too, because I'm an occupational therapist. It's always better to err on the side of caution than to be caught out there.
Yep, absolutely.
With no protection.
They're looking for opportunity.
Yeah.
And the same thing, even, now they have a lot of these lights, police lights in Walmart and big lights in big parking lots, because a lot of these passenger vans, they would park next to people's car, women's car. They try to find women who are, vulnerable, putting in
their groceries if they have kids and they're trying to load the kids up in the car and handle groceries. I mean, all of it is a prime time because you're vulnerable. You're really vulnerable in those in those moments because you're busy doing something else. And,
and you got to make sure that you are not parked next to some big van. So a lot of the sex trafficking, we just played it. I mean, it's a huge industry. And I think that people generally think about kidnappers, rapists, and murderers versus sex trafficking.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the cases of possible disappearances are sex trafficking. And people don't understand, they don't know it, you know? So you got to really, really be careful, particularly if you're a younger, because they tend to, from what I see, they tend to go for the younger women that are in their 20s and younger. I mean, don't get me wrong. They go for women that are a little 30s, 40s can be victims too.
Absolutely.
But I think that women who are 30s and 40s are a little more aware about how they're moving around. Mom, people with kids, they tend to be a little more aware. Some not, but a lot of times the women who are in their 20s, mid 20s and younger, a lot of times they're just not aware and they're just very open to either opportunities being presented to them or they're just not paying attention.
Or just being caught up in a vulnerable situation.
Maybe on their phone or whatever it is and just not aware of their surroundings.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So don't think people don't pick up people or snatch up people in broad daylight. They do it as well.
Absolutely.
So I think I'm an advocate for that. For women, I think women have to be extremely careful all the time.
Yeah.
This is such a big thing. And the other piece of it too is we talk about when you get into, so a little bit about illegal immigration the past couple of years, right? Within the last couple of years with illegal immigration, they say that there are, going back to the children, there are over 100,000 children ICE
Missing.
can't account for.
Yep.
A new Department of Homeland Security report suggests the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, ICE, cannot account for tens of thousands of unaccompanied minors. The report from the DHS Inspector General notes a number of issues, effectively blaming ICE for losing track of children who arrive alone at the border. Let's bring in border correspondent Allie Bradley, who is live for us in Del Rio, Texas. Allie, break down more of this report for us.
Yeah, hey, Nicole, it's a pretty alarming report that found that at least 32,000 unaccompanied children never showed up for their court dates between 2019 and 2023. And nearly 300,000 of these kids that came across the southern border alone never even got a court date whatsoever. So ICE did respond to this Office of Inspector General report here that was just released, saying that the notices were not given out to children until they were placed with sponsors. And at that point, they were in the custody of the Office of Refugee Resettlement.
That kind of hole in the system allows for the opportunity for the human trafficking and child trafficking to evolve.
So if you put it in perspective, you know, they say over 100,000 kids, you know, unaccounted for. Now, are all these kids being sex trafficked? Who knows? Are some of them being sex trafficked? Probably so. I mean, that is probably the easiest way for sex traffickers to get kids. Imagine you have all these kids, let's say the kids that are between 9 and 15. Imagine if you have 50,000 kids that age that are coming into the country. Now, some of these kids coming in with adults, those aren't even their guardians, from what I understand. From what I understand, traffickers are actually using the immigration system for it because it's so easy. We don't have to snatch these kids up. These kids are coming in. They're already vulnerable. Yeah. They're coming over. Some of them are not coming over with their guardian.
Sometimes the parents are like, you go, you go, you know, like get over there. Yeah. You'll have opportunity over there.
Like,
so
because somebody, from what I understand, somebody's saying that, you know, maybe another adult saying, oh, I can get your child over to the U.S.
That,
yeah. So,
that's so scary.
Or there's situations where they're just, I mean, the whole process of illegally migrating, a lot of things can happen. So in that process, when you have kids coming, they're already vulnerable. So you can easily put them into, whatever, sex slavery, labor slavery, whatever it is. And
to go that direction. Yeah.
If people don't even know who they are, how they ever get out of the human trafficking or sex slavery? How do they get out of it? I mean, let's say you have a teenage girl who's coming over from Venezuela or Mexico or any other South American country, and she's in this country. People don't know where she is. They don't know who she came over with. She's in horrible danger because you can't find something that you don't know exists. You know what I'm saying? So the illegal immigration, that's another byproduct of illegal immigration, is the sex trafficking and human trafficking of it that not enough people are talking about. Yeah. And some of those girls may be here in our state in New Jersey.
Yeah, absolutely could be.
You know, so.
Oh, just one of many things that they need to fix about immigration is having everyone being vetted, making sure that the child that is crossing the borders with this adult person is either related to that adult person, either mother, father, family member. You got to be able to account for the child and the adult that's bringing them over.
100%.
You know, to make sure that
the problem is they can't do that because
just like the way that it is now, because of what's going on with the laws that with the open immigration borders right now.
The adult.
Well, yeah, right now.
Coming over illegally. Right. No, I feel you.
They're not even vetting people anymore right now. But hopefully, in the new administration, you know, those are some of the changes that need to be made. People need to be vetted. You need to know who's in the country, not only for safety, but to also make sure that they are, you know, go through the legal processes to becoming a citizen or an undocumented. You know, I don't know how that whole immigration things go. I would assume it's to become a citizen and to live in this country and to work in this country. You know, you have to be properly vetted. And then for the children's sake, even though they do initially I think they do, like if you're coming in illegally, they have to separate the children from the family so that they can make sure the family member themselves are properly vetted and making sure that they don't have a criminal history, making sure that they are who they say they are before they bring the child back with
So that I don't know.
with that family.
I don't
I believe, because
know.
I mean, there's also talk about what's going on at the borders as far as like children being separated from their families. That's a whole nother talk.
That's a whole issue.
That's a whole nother issue. But I think that's actually a great safety guard for the child, is so that we can properly vet the adult who brought them in.
Yeah.
To make sure that, number one, they're related in some kind of a way. Number two, to make sure that they aren't criminals.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah, because if they are, that's a great point. Because if they are, I don't.
Why
we
would
don't
you want
know
to
what
bring
they
that
do.
child back into that? You know what I mean? So
Right, and then,
it's,
yeah,
it's
like you
actually
said.
protecting the child.
Why or is that adult supposed to have that child?
And is that
that's
yeah.
a very difficult thing. But I think that part of just illegal immigration in general needs to be tamped down because it creates opportunity.
Right.
And it's not just, like you said, it's not just the safety of our country, but it's also the safety of the people, for their safety. Some of the people who are coming over. It is a hotbed of opportunity
for child
yeah.
trafficking.
I mean, it's easy pickings. It's
Yeah.
easier than going online trying to get an American kid to meet somewhere.
Right.
Kids, they already ripe for the picking, because
Right.
who knows? So, yeah, but this is definitely a big problem, and I think that human and sex trafficking. I hope that we wanted to do this video just to spread more information and get people aware.
Spread awareness. Yes.
Because it caught our radar just to hear that something like that happened in Essex County.
Yeah.
Our kids are not too far off from being in that age range soon, So it really scared me when I thought about 21-year-old, 28-year-old black men, black male, black female.
Yeah.
Who are in the community. You don't know what these kids do. You don't know what they do. They could be, for all we know, they could be youth counselors. They could work at the summer program at the YMCA. You know what I'm saying? Like anything. So you have to be aware, just to close it out. You got to be aware of, particularly with your kids, who they have relationships with, understand who their teachers are, camp counselors, whatever it is, understand those relationships, but also talk to your kids about the communication and understand the communication they have going outward with people, because you don't know what people are trying to get your kids to do.
Yeah.
And like I said, just delete the opportunity. You know what I'm saying? The more you delete the opportunity, because one last quick point too is that the supply and demand, and they talked about this with supply and demand. So you have the supply would be the kids, but the demand, who are the customers? The customers for a lot of these things, that's what's nasty work. The customers are people you would never even think of.
Well,
Pastors, teachers.
Well, yeah, they
lawyers.
Lawyers. I think they were listing on one of those videos. It listed all of these people who are the customers, and yeah, that's just nasty, and that's just gross work, and I don't even know what else to say about that. I mean,
the traffickers are just the middlemen.
But these are actually people who, I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt, babe. So, I mean, besides it just being a regular person, these are people who can afford to pay the money to get these traffickers to do that. So it's also a lot of money. You saw how much money was involved, billions of dollars. So there are people that have lots of money who are
ready to pay,
who are willing to pay for that
supply.
So,
You're absolutely right, because there are a lot of everyday people you wouldn't think of. So again, you have the traffickers, but you also have to think about the customers. There are many everyday people who have these nasty fetishes for children, and they will pay for it. And as long as someone is ready to supply that, there are people ready to buy it. So you gotta minimize the opportunity, spread awareness, and human and sex trafficking is just as important, or just as big of an issue as kidnapping and murder and drugs.
Yeah.
It's just as big of an issue.
You know what? I think we should probably post a link in the in the description of, like, if you suspect any anything happening, human trafficking. I would just say human trafficking, both adults and children. You can notify, this organization, or something local to us. You can notify this
Because
organization.
we talked about an organization that they had put up QR codes in the back.
Yeah, it's the
What's the name of that?
NJSP Human Trafficking Unit, in partnership with the Attorney General, I think, of New Jersey.
Say that one more time in the microphone for people to hear. We'll put the link in there, but
Well, the particular investigations of human trafficking that was caught in southern and northern New Jersey were led by the NJSP Human Trafficking Unit, in partnership with the attorneys from the DCJ Human Trafficking Unit.
okay.
I feel like there is a specific. Well, anyway, it's
We'll
the
put the
human.
link in
Yeah, we'll put the links. We'll put the links down below. But there are human trafficking units that are trying to stop human trafficking. And from what I believe, I don't remember her name, but she was a part of this unit and leading actually one of these units and putting up barcodes.
Mm-hmm.
Or QR code, not barcodes, QR codes in the women's bathroom, so that if you suspect human trafficking is happening, or maybe you're even, a unwilling participant in it, you can scan the QR code if you have a smartphone. And I think there's also a number listed as well. And I believe on this website we can put up the QR code or the information for that. So we'll try to link that in the description box down below, because we want to do our part. You know what I mean? If we can help to spread the awareness and help to stop, or you can, report those who you might know. I don't know if you know who knows what you know. Who knows? We're just putting the information out there, just so you can pass the information along, or if you can contact them directly yourself.
100%. Well, that's what it's all about. Crucial Convo. Let us know what you think in the comments. Like and subscribe to the channel. Of course, like and subscribe to
Have Faith Yoga.
Yes, you know what I'm saying? Definitely.
We'll put that link down below too.
100%. So you guys be good. Crucial Convo. We're out of here. Thanks again.
Be blessed.
Peace.